Transportation Committee meeting of May 19th, 2021. We have a call to order. A roll call, please.
Mr. Stroman?
Here.
Mr. McCain?
Excused.
Mr. Glover?
Yeah.
Ms. Kozak?
Not excused.
Mr. Becker?
Here.
Mr. Forrest?
Excused.
Mr. Gordon?
Here.
Mr. Hill?
Here.
Mr. Winslow?
Excused.
Ms. Graves-Sellars?
Excused. I was going with Luana. That kind of blew me away. Excuse me. Introduce the members of the audience today. Stephanie, you want to go first?
Stephanie Rossi with the Low Country Council of Governments.
Andrea Atherton, Director of Transportation Engineering, Beaufort County.
Jared Fraley, Assistant County Administrative Engineer, Beaufort County.
All right, thank you very much. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Hill, I'm going to ask you to remain standing. You know, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the time you dedicated to the committee. As a small token of our appreciation, that and $1 will get you a cup of coffee sometime, but we very much appreciate your service.
Thank you, Kraig. Thank you for recognition. The other members, wife and I will be leaving the area in a month, and I've tendered my resignation to Kraig. It's a surprise. It's kind of a emergent thing, but and I'm sorry to leave while there's certainly a lot of work to be done. But I know you'll carry on.
Thank you. Okay, is there any public comment? Is anybody registered?
No.
Okay. Approval of minutes, our March 17, 2021 meeting minutes. Is there any questions, comments?
Move that they be accepted.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Old business. We're going to start with year 4 resurfacing. Andrea, you're up.
Oh, I face that way. Just face the judges. You good?
Yep.
Thank you, Chairman Gordon. So, update on year 4 resurfacing. Contract was awarded to Blythe, Eurovia, doing business as Blythe, for $1,391,000. We have had our first change order to add Twin Lakes, Duke Street, Schwartz, and Shork for $345,903. We have a pending change order that will be discussed later on in the agenda to do some repair work at Big Estate Circle to be funded half by C funds and half by TAG funds. They are about 45% complete based on the value of their contract. They have completed the asphalt overlay on Burton Wells and Cherokee Farms. All the micro surfacing is complete on Sherrington, Plantation Park Drive, Pin Oak, 9th, Foreman Hill, Murray Drive. Next up will be Twin Lakes and Old Salem, Shork and Schwartz, and if it's approved to proceed with Big Estate, Big Estate will be on the list to tackle next. Big Estate and Twin Lakes, the goal is to have them completed by June 30 this fiscal year for the C funds. Anticipated completion for all of their contract for resurfacing is October of this year.
One point for everybody's clarification, the $345,000 change order, we have only $38,000, $39,000 is all.
For Twin Lakes, right, a portion of Twin Lakes, correct. The rest is through TAG fund and some grants and the utility tax credits.
The only question I would have, Andrea, how do we look with our 10% that we have stuck back?
So far on full depth patch, we're doing okay. We had included that for full depth patch and included a 5% contingency. So they do have the two biggest roads done. So the next one that I think it was in Heritage Lakes,
Mhm.
over off of Burnt Church. No, not Heritage Lakes. The neighborhood we're doing off of Burnt Church is the only one that you know, has a considerable amount of full depth patch left to do. So
That's obviously important to our budgeting. Okay,
Okay.
any other questions? Okay.
Not sure that you're aware, but last year we decided to separate the REJUVENATOR. Next slide there. We decided to separate the REJUVENATOR contract from the resurfacing contract, and that was a really wise move. We saved a considerable amount of money by doing that. The contractor was Pavement Technology, which has been in the county before and done the reclamite for us. The original contract was $192,000. We did give them a change order to do Buck Island from Fording Island to Buckwalder for just under 20 grand. They completed all of their work within 14 days, and it came in at 94 cents a square yard, which is awesome. Under $1 a square yard is awesome. When we paid obviously more than that when we had it as a subcontract to our previous resurfacing.
About $1.75.
It was, yeah, it was considerably more. So it was a good move, and I think, not sure, haven't looked at year 5 yet, but if we have any, if there's REJUVENATOR, and then I'd also like to consider separating the microsurfacing from the major resurfacing part, because they do all their own traffic maintenance, so it worked out very well. Saved some money along the way.
I won't ask you to step down, but Elizabeth, have you got the coring set up to core Buck Island?
It's not scheduled just yet, but we can.
Just was curious. Thank you. Okay,
Okay, just an update on some dirt road paving projects. There's not a slide here, but Dirt 51, which was Rice Road, that's complete. Salicornia, that is complete. We're working on Ward's Landing right now. It's rocked. It should be paved by the end of the month. And then we've started surveying and some grading on George Williams in northern Beaufort County, and the completion date for that will be the end of July of this year. And that leads into the update on contract number 52. It is the same contractor. It's design build contract. JH hires the contractor and Andrews Engineering for the design. There are also 4 roadways in this contract: Harrison Island, over in Okatee, Wright Place on Hilton Head, Wickliffe, Beaufort, and David Green Road in St. Helena. By the way those are listed, that's the order in which their plan is to design and construct them.
see that, John? We got your David Green on there now.
Thank you.
And engineering has started. Contract was let about a month ago, and Andrews has started into the surveying and engineering already. And on that contract, all roads are anticipated to be complete by August of 2022.
Are those the year 2 roads of the dirt road paving?
That is correct. Year 3 roads we will bid out here in the September-October timeframe.
Where is J.D. Washington on that list?
Where's what?
J.D. Washington?
Hold on, let me see if it's in the year 5. I have that.
I think that's right.
Yes, sir, year 5.
Year 5?
Yep. So that would be, that'd be 22, 23, 24, 25, 2025 would be
I hope I'm around by then.
constructed. Okay, and the last update is on the pavement conditions survey. As you know, we had done a pavement condition survey that was completed in July of 2017, and that established our 5-year paving program, of which we just went over where we are on year 4. We will bid out year 5 again in the fall to be done, in the spring and summer. So we are ready to start a new pavement condition survey with the next 5-year plan in place. The contract has been let to FNME. The plan up until about a day ago had been to have DOT work with Fugro, who had done the surveying here in the state, to provide the data for FNME, and I think we're going to have a different plan going forward to actually collect the survey data. But once the data is collected, FNME will be calculating the PQI, developing our maintenance and preservation options, developing our next 5-year fiscally constrained maintenance and preservation program. And then they are also going to make some recommendations to us for possibly some management software for us to use. Anticipated completion date at this time, pending when we can get the survey data, is late fall, November of this year.
I will step in and simply share with you some things that a little bit of background on this. Fugro did do the state secondary and the documents we have in our possession for Beaufort County. Fugro did it throughout the whole state, all the state secondaries. Fugro partnered with FNME and SEPI to do the work together as a team. Fugro is charging 3 to 4 times the dollar amount to ride the roads under FNME's contract than what they were charging the state. And so because of it, Fugro got to the point where they were obnoxious about it and changed their criteria in their understanding of the bid documents. That's a polite way of saying it. And wanted almost to double their money to do them. And they were going to come to us, and we basically said, we had the help of FNME. They went to the state and they tried using the state's contract, which was considerably less dollar amount. It would have been a savings for us. And so as this all plays out, again, Fugro gets done and says, we're going back to Canada. Tough luck, we're not going to do your work. And so right now, FNME is working on whether they use DTS out of Orlando, who did it the last time, or whether they work a deal with the state and have the state has the same exact equipment that Fugro has, so we're not losing anything. But it's their responsibility to figure it out, get back with us and keep us in the loop. Questions?
Yeah, does this contract also include the survey work to be done on Defusky?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
New business, item A. Jared, you're up.
Thank you, Chairman Gordon and members of the committee. Just a little bit of update to you all as staff and reorganization inside the engineering division. I was hired on last year as a transportation engineering director, and in the fall took a promotion to the assistant county administrator, of which I serve now. From that time, we have been in search of replacing that position and rehiring that transportation engineering director. Also, we unfortunately lost one of our staff members, Ms. Deja Jackson, as a project manager. So we were really down 2 spots in the transportation department. So we put out a solicitation and advertisement, and we've had a few applicants, but we're never successful in getting anybody. And then I don't know why we didn't think of this much sooner, but Andrea's over here doing all these CTC roads and resurfacing contracts and dirt road paving contracts, and why don't we look at maybe doing some shuffling internal? So we actually did that, and here recently we moved Andrea. She was serving as capital projects director, and moved her over to serve as a transportation engineering director, and Mr. Dave Wilhelm, who was serving as special projects director, we moved that and basically did away with the special projects department and moved him over to capital projects. So now we're squarely positioned. Andrea's in the lead of the transportation group. We're still searching for that assistant, that transportation construction manager, which is out for advertisement now. But we're in a much better place than we were, and Andrea's picking up a lot of the slack that I was carrying 2 hats for. So anyhow, that's where we are inside the engineering division.
Any questions?
I want to ask a question. I'm not quite sure how to, my familiarity is with federal government positions, and I'm familiar with GS 14s and 15s and 13s. Do you have any
I know the terminology, but I'm not sure how
My
they
question
equate.
is the transportation engineering position you're attempting to fill. What civil service, what grade is that? What are you advertising it at?
Well, it's called transportation construction manager. I'm not sure what grade.
Is
A
it a
GS8.
A GS
About a
8?
GS8, yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if that helps.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. That answers my question.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jared. Biggest stake circle. This will be an interesting conversation. This started about 2 years ago, and is the lead-in I'm going to give to Mr. Stroman to kind of walk through his portion. He's done an outstanding job for us in District 1. You're on.
I'm on. This is, if you get confused, you just wait till I get finished. I was confused quite a bit myself. Kraig asked me to just kind of go through it again and just say what I did and how I tried to be helpful to the people out in the big estate. And I'll just sum it up by saying, to the best of my knowledge, I initiate conversation with the condition of Big Estate Circle beginning in year 219 with Mr. Williams, a resident of this county. I explained to him that this is a SCDOT road and referred him to Miss Elizabeth Sanders, with whom he spoke. And as I recall, Dot made an assessment of the road and some repairs were made. February 16th, 2021, I received a mail from Ms. Fields, another resident of this community. In this email, she expressed her concerns about the condition of Big Estate Circle. The 222 plan to revalue the roads and available conditions and find funds in the CTC reserve account to pave this road. She also requested that I participate in a tour of the road with her and other members of the community. Graciously, I did. On February 19th, via email, I respond to Ms. Field. This is a LCDOT road, not in the network of CTC for maintenance. I suggest that she present her concerns at the next CTC scheduled meeting on March 17th. And I don't think they showed up at that meeting, did they? No, they did not show up. At her request on March 15th, 2021, I met with Councilman Dawson and her to physically see her concerns again regarding the road. Again, I suggest that the president for her concerns at the next scheduled CT meeting contact Ms. Elizabeth Sanders, and I shared my concerns with Mr. Kraig Gordon. And that's where we stand right now.
Thank you. To give you a little bit of a picture of Big Estate Road is about 2 miles long. It's located in Jones District. It has an ADT of less than 500. In fact, it's less than 200. Very, very little traffic on the road. The road is basically an old state right secondary, very old secondary, probably built in the late 40s, early 50s. Through time, it is delineated and some of the areas have spalled off. Joe has met with them, talked with them. Elizabeth has had forces out working on. About 2 months ago, Elizabeth and Jared and I met concerning it and other topics. And it was discussed how we would try using another budget, another methodology of making some repairs to the road, which were unsuccessful. So Jared came and made the recommendation that Andrea met with Blythe, and I'll let you describe what you're going to do, Andrea, so that they have a picture of the repair.
Okay. So, as you said, the road is delaminated. It's falling off in areas. There's not really any potholes, but it is, it's a rough ride in certain spots for sure. So, a little history, just about a mile from there, from where Big Estate Circle is Booker T. Washington. And when we paved Albertha Fields Road, obviously we did some damage to Booker T, and we went in there to repair it and found out that it is an inch or two, maybe 3 of asphalt on subgrade. On subgrade, there really wasn't a substantial aggregate base, and it failed. When we went in there and milled off the existing asphalt, we actually made it worse. By even taking the structure away, we made it worse. So I spoke with Blythe about this and told them the situation that we'd had on Booker, and they looked at Big Estate Circle and said, well, based on what we know of the ground out here, we really don't want to mill anything off. We don't want to take any structure away from this roadway. So what we want to do is add to it in the bad areas. So what they're going to do is they're going to come in and they're going to add 125 pounds of, I think, surface D or C, which is about 1.25 inches maybe. And they will mill in for a smooth transition of the areas where they're not going to take care of. But they're going to go to all the areas that have delaminated and do a resurface over them. It's not the entire road. It's not meant to be a perfect fix, but it might complement when it actually shows up on DOT's road to be resurfaced.
Thank you. Now, I shared with you all a letter that I sent back to the senator. She had sent a letter to me as well as the Secretary of Transportation, basically telling us that we would take care of the road. And needless to say, here we are working on it, trying to make repairs to it. And she has the audacity to step in and try to play politics with it. And needless to say, Margie Bright Matthews infuriated me, to say the least, putting it mildly. So, the big thing that I take exception to is the fact that I don't want to start a circumstance where a precedent where we get a letter from a state senator enforcing us just to go out to start paving dirt roads because she says, I want it paved. That is wrong. That's not the way we've set up to run our business or anything else. But believe it or not, I had this conversation with Kraig Forrest, and Kraig actually understood why. I think under the circumstances, the $80,000 that's going to be needed to do this, we have to spend roughly $275,000 rough dollars before 1 July. That's our requirement for this fiscal year, which I'll explain a little bit more what we're going to do with that as we go on. My recommendation has been that we go ahead and step up for $40,000, provide $40,000 towards this paving. That way the CTC has done a part, and if nothing else, a little bit of face work in the process. So that is what I have before you, and that's why this topic is being discussed. Does anybody have any questions or concerning this?
When you use the term spend, are you referring to obligate the money or expend it?
We will do both, obligated and spend it.
It will be expended by the 1st of July.
Yeah, well,
That's pretty good.
Blythe has already been there, looked at it, and they're programmed to go ahead and then do it.
That just to patch it, correct?
It's not to do the complete resurfacing.
It's not to do a complete resurfacing, but they will do some resurfacing, about a 1-inch lift on some areas where it is delineated is the right way of describing it. We had pictures of it, but it's $80,000 doesn't get you much on a 2-mile road. It costs roughly $325,000 to $350,000 to pave 2 miles of road. So obviously we're just resurfacing areas that's necessary.
Are there any qualifications to the commitment so as to not have this appear to be, setting precedent for
I would accept
responding
that
to-
as a motion. I'd gladly take that as a motion. So
I think we should have some type of qualification for this, maybe extraordinary type of expenditure based on perception of, political influence on our decision.
I totally agree with that. I would accept that if you want to make a motion to.
I would move that. I'll maybe have to clean up the language a little bit, but I think we should qualify why we are participating in this specific repair.
So the motion would be you are approving the expenditure of $40,000 for repairs to be made to Big Estate Circle with the premises that this is not under any political pressure.
Something that we are not establishing precedent of guidance from political entities.
Correct.
Is it also contingent, would be contingent on, I don't recall who is going to provide the other 40,000?
Tag.
So are those funds already spoken for?
Yes, they have them. They're willing to commit it.
Yeah, I would concur in such a motion.
Second,
Yeah, second.
Oh,
any further discussion?
when will this road be completed? I know we're going
Within 60 days?
to.
Within 60?
By the end of June, yes, that's it.
Okay, I thought you said July,
Yes.
okay. By the end of June, okay.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Secondary road review and assignments. I've worked with Elizabeth, and Elizabeth provided us with, in your packet, a set of maps of all the roads that we'll be working on in the coming years. What she's done in 2021, what she's done in 2022 coming up, and also what's projected in 2023. Got a curveball for you, gentlemen. And the curveball is simply this. There was a time when I wanted to was going to go out and have a committee formed and have the committee come back and make recommendations for paving projects in the future years. And I thought, that's foolish. And so I asked Elizabeth to provide this list. And essentially the list was provided with the idea that each of the committee members would go through the list. And I kind of went through the list, and for my own edification, and I didn't put it on here because I want you guys to go through it. I went through and looked at what district it is in.
Okay, I see what you're saying, yeah.
So you're gonna go look at it to see whose district it is in, but it also, what it does is, it advises you and gets you involved in understanding where the paving projects are going to be working in the future years. Now, our plan is, by our July meeting, to have from you all a list of projected roads that are in these districts and close to the roads that's on here. So I'll give you one that isn't represented here, and that way I'm not giving one away. S7406 Sea Island Parkway. That's in District 2. And so what'll happen is, I would ask for you to take in your packet, we provided this document. This document is multiple pages and it has a listing. This is the PMS that was done on all the state secondaries. So you can go on here and look at the condition of the road, the ADT. Don't be coming in here with a road that has an ADT of 300. You're coming in here with a road that has an ADT of 4,000. So you have this in your packet. You previously had provided to you with your atlas a listing of all the council districts. You have a listing of the roads. In your packet, you also have a listing of the conversion sheet of the road names to the highway number that you're in. So you have everything in your power to be able for you to do your job. And what we're trying to do is, in the out years, be able to come up with a paving program that we have input to. We'll provide the money. And the rough numbers that we'll have to provide on an annual basis, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, under a financial forecast, but the dollar amount is about $825,000, and that means you'll be able to resurface roughly 2.5 miles, because 325,000 gets us a 2-mile road paving. So it's incumbent upon you to show up at our next meeting with listing or recommendations of roads that marry up with the roads that will be paved. That way we don't have to have, what it stops is the upfront cost, of contractors' mobilization fees, and we'll get a bit better spending of our money.
And this is C funds doing this?
C funds. Roughly, you saw in our packet, we were getting, by the end of the year, about 100 or round numbers, $1.3 million for the first 6 months. It'll take us about $2.6 million. So when we give $800,000, it looks $1.7 million for us to spend on our roads, and $800,000 we have to spend on state routes. Questions of me?
So you're giving us a homework assignment here.
Yep. That way it gets you involved rather than me picking routes in your district. That way you have to go look at them, and I would recommend that part of the packet that's presented is that you would provide pictures.
Yeah.
That way then I will assign a committee to prioritize them separate from it.
Good.
Any questions or comments? Jim?
I'm just looking to see if this list, it looks like it is sorted by district.
No,
No.
it is not. It's sorted by number.
Okay.
On the far left-hand side, you'll see 759.
Yep.
That is this, and take this magic little document and that converts the street name to it.
And it's about funding, state funding, primary, secondary, the primary federal aid secondary, and the non-federal aid secondary.
Come on up, Elizabeth, please. I honestly couldn't hear you.
Oh,
And if I can't hear you, I'm not sure anybody else
okay.
did.
Thank you for the invitation. But yes, they're just divided by primary federal aid secondary and non-federal aid secondary. So those are 3 different types of funding sources that we have.
Thank you.
Certainly.
While you're standing there, I want to give you back a comment that I had with Joe Sturm. Let me look. I'm going to pick that up under the next topic, but,
Regarding commitment versus,
excuse me?
or regarding commitment,
Yes.
fund commitment, okay.
I need to know the road that you're going to use it on.
Okay,
He was adamant, he says, whenever you send the money to me, I have to have the road.
okay.
So why don't we take care of that? The discussion is, we're going to take the 280,000, Brittany, is what you come up with?
Yes.
Projection?
Yes.
$280,000. We're going to subtract the $40,000 off of it to take it down to 240. And so we will be funding for the state secondary $240,000, which a check will be submitted to. How it's done is I have to draft a letter. What's the name of the road it's going to go on, be used for?
We last discussed Islands Causeway,
Island Causeway.
but that's looking at a future 2023 placement.
Well, I confirmed, as you and I talked, that we make the commitment in this fiscal year. If you spend it next fiscal year, it's no fault. We're clear.
Okay.
So Island Causeway will be the road where the $240,000 is going on, and that's in her committed project. So I'm asking for a motion for us to submit $240,000 to complete our state required funding for this fiscal year to the program manager, and who turns around and gives it to her district to spend. So I have a motion.
I so move.
Yes.
Second,
Second.
further discussion? Hearing none, I'll be sending a check second or third week of June, not a day before.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else? We're good. So that kind of took care of our state secondary funding, Jim.
Yep. Okay.
State Route 170 update, my name's underneath it, but I'm going to ask Jared to start that conversation for us.
Thank you, Chairman. So in 2019, the Flats Committee finalized and finished a corridor access management study on 170 from US 278 to SC 462. Out of that study, there were three kind of separate projects: near-term, long, or immediate-term, and long-term projects. There has been a voice from council that they asked, what can we do to start this project and this process? And we identified the near-term solutions. There's a total of 8 projects, I believe, and one of which has already been accomplished between CTC, Beaufort County CTC, and Jasper County, which is the intersection at 462 and 170, installing that signal. But there's 7 other remaining projects out of the near-term projects with a cost approximately in $3 million range. So they have commissioned staff to move forward on the design and permitting part for those near-term projects, and we're facilitating that, going through the methods to get that work under procurement and get that set up. So that's where we are, and I'll gladly take anything from there.
One of the things that has been done is that I met with the Jasper County Administrator and basically requested of him to have Jasper County contribute roughly $1 million, not to exceed $1 million for the project. And with that happening, they went back to AECOM, and AECOM is going to be making a presentation to their county council, and with the hope that they will provide $1 million to help work these projects out. Along with that, I said I would have a little bit interesting to happen. Elizabeth and I had talked about it. I was thanking her for the way she put together the 3 years out project, and lo and behold, in the 4 hours I went through all the projects the other day, I happened to notice that she was funding or putting in a request to fund the intersection of 170 and 278 to repave it. It's in pretty bad shape around it. And she says, well, you know, the commission, and this is the way it works, the commission has to approve paving projects. All she does is, at this point in time, bring projects to the district level. The district looks at them, works on it with her, and they come up with their list, whether this stays on or not. And I made a phone call to Michael Black. And Michael calls me this morning, and I said, Michael, why can't you party with us if you're going to get the money to do this, why can't you party with us to provide some money to do the resurfacing, or do the resurfacing in conjunction with us? But I said, it's in 2023 is when you have this speculated. He says, I can't change 2022. But let me go and check my sources to see if I can't get some funding money to help do the resurfacing while, and as we've talked a little bit about it with Jared, and I've talked back and forth, it's been kind of the deal where we looked at by the end of the year, we might have the project designed and bid, and then in sometime in the first quarter of 2022 to be able to physically do the work. So I'm supposed to get a phone call back from Michael early next week to see if he can't find funding to help us with this, because folks, it's a state primary route. It's not a state secondary route. It's a primary route. 44,000 vehicles a day. I mean, 45,000 vehicles a day. It is a major, major thoroughfare. So we need to be taking action on this project and keeping it moving. So Jared's running with the engineering at this point in time, and I'm trying to use sources to help make certain we get engineering funding. Questions? You better be smiling back there, Elizabeth, and help finding us that money.
We'll see what they come up with.
In your packet, I provided you all, hearing no additional comments, I'm going to move on. I put in your packet the forecast that was being provided to us from the C Fund program manager. And our money was 1.24 million, which will get us roughly to $2.5 million. And our donor funds, which we do not have to use. The donor funds, we don't have to spend our 33% of it on state routes. That's our funding for us. So we will be spending roughly $800,000, $825,000 of the $2.5 million we're getting next year. And that's the work that you all are doing, coming up with next year's fiscal year's projects for state routes. Any questions concerning that?
This is the 21. What was it last year?
They reduced us last year. I can tell you exactly.
I recall from previous meeting, you mentioned it was going to be reduced in 21.
Our total for last year was 2.3.
Yeah.
So we're up just a little bit from, and the way our year's running this year, we're not getting the dollar amount, say, projected.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Okay.
Yeah, now this may be, but with things like gasoline shortages that we're currently experiencing, any analysis been done on how much revenue we lose on gas that's not sold?
I asked that question of Joe, and he had no input. Mm-hmm. They are, and I'm sure it'll probably have some effect in what our funding for our June will be.
Yeah.
May of June, probably.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Treasurer, Mr. Backer, you're up next, sir.
Okay, we have covered some of the time-critical items of appropriating funding for the remainder of this year, and that $283,000 has now been committed. In terms of the forecasting for the balance of the year, I mean, we're looking at, from a forecast of total C Fund revenue, which also includes the donor funds, of about $2.8 million for this fiscal year. Going into next year, as we transition into the next fiscal year on July 1st, our commitment to state roads state secondary roads will be at a 33 1/3% level, which is where Kraig came up with the approximately $825,000 based on what we believe we will be allocated next year. And that's really kind of the highlights at this point.
Any questions?
Now I have a better understanding now of our homework assignment, the background of our homework assignment.
That's why it shakes out the way it does.
Yep.
Any questions concerning it at all? Or Brittany, do you have anything you want to add?
I don't.
Thank you. Any public comment to today's agenda? In closing out Chairman's comments, 2 items for discussion today, and the 2 items are, number 1 is attendance. It spells out very explicitly in our transportation plan that no member can miss 2 meetings back to back without being approved. It's a very simple phone call. If you have a conflict, it's a phone call, pick up the phone and call me and say, here's what's going on, why I'm not going to be there. It's that simple. Well, unfortunately, we've had a member that hasn't even attended a meeting virtually or in person this year. And it's the only time that has happened, actually. I have everybody that called me very much had conflicts for today's meeting. And it's been that way throughout the years I've served as chairman. But I take exception, and I will be talking to a county council member on the appointment for the failure of this person to live up to their obligations. The next item is administrative funds. At our last committee meeting, we made note that we were going to work and try to grow our administrative fees up to $4,000. As I believe mentioned then, that there are 3 CTCs out of the 46 counties where the chairman's paid on all sorts of crazy stuff that they spend money for, computers and everything else. And I have no desire for any of that. But I do have a desire for this, and if this is applicable for every member sitting here or that's not sitting here. I have many meetings that I go to and wind up, and I'm not talking 1 or 2, I'm talking in a quarter, probably 4 to 6 meetings that I'm requested to attend and at their lunches. And I've been taking them out of my pocket, and I'm not complaining. And I had John attend a meeting for me with the Secretary of Transportation when it commemorated the bridge. And I looked at it, and round trip mileage alone was over 130 miles. And it gets to the point of donating isn't exactly the fair thing to do. We have the administrative fees, and anytime somebody is doing something for committee business that isn't the standard meeting day, I'm not requesting to be paid or anybody to be paid to drive here for their normal meeting. But if there are except meetings that you're taking out of your district, you should be reimbursed for it. Sure. The same as I should be reimbursed for any that I'm doing as well. Does there anybody have any conflict with that or question, or we will address that in our rewriting of our transportation plan next year so that it's spelled out more definitively.
It applies to all the members.
Correct.
Of the committee.
It applies to all members.
Mm-hmm.
The funds are there and we're not using them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's use it.
Okay, our next meeting is July the 21st. If you could have your homework done for somewhere around the 14th of July, I'd very much appreciate that so that we can have it scheduled in our meeting documents.
July 21st?
The meeting's July 21st. I'd like to have the reports that you're doing for your district by the 14th.
Chairman, you mentioned supporting pictures to go with comments. But do you have a format you'd like to see things come back in?
What format would you like that to be in, Brittany?
The images?
Yes.
The images or even related, descriptive comments? or-
Yeah, just go ahead and just send over any types of photographs by email. That'll be fine.
Okay. I have a motion for adjournment unless there's further business to be before this committee.
I make a motion that the CTC adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're out of here.
That was quick.